China is an upper middle income country and the world's second largest economy today. It has an enormous population that is actually overpopulated and that keeps increasing. Whether due to the immigration or more births than deaths in total, it can impact the natural resources and social infrastructure. It is facing a few social, economic, and environmental problems, like degradation of land resources producing more pollution, which places pressure on country sustainability. So to ensure that such significant growth in population, which negatively impact the availability of land for agricultural production, because of the exacerbate of the demands for basic services, now food, energy, water, public services, and health can be fixed. Decreasing and managing population size can positively impact a government commitment to maintain good quality of services and infrastructure to support the development of sustainability. The demographic graph of Cpr, CDR, and the fertility rates all can be found under the population growth category in the population sector. All the writing in blue in my presentation, you can read through it by yourself. So I'm gonna just explain the graph. So the trend of the graph is affected by the policy of having child. So firstly, the stable line shows the median birth rate over the time, which can be due to the traditional family structure that exists before the existence of People's Republic of China during that Qing period. Then the sudden fall happened afterward because of the Chinese Civil War, where lots of people died. After a few years, the Liberation War came up during 1946 to 1950, and then the People's Republic of China was established in 1949, which means no more war. Thus, many investigations are promoted as to help industry development. People are focusing more on their missions rather than having a child at a time. One big event occurred during 1953 to 1982 is it only allowed one child between a pair of parents, and any more children was restricted. Well, in 1982, some villagers were allowed to have a second child if the first one is a girl or a disabled one. Then in 2000, if both of the parents are the only child in their family, they can have a second child. This graph is for crew death rate. So the reason that the death rate is so high at the beginning of the war is the war just ended, and there are soldiers who survived from the war dead in the after years. As the country is went better and better, so from 1960 with the industrial development appeared, only people died regularly because of accidents and injuries. 3. Total fertility rate. At the beginning from 1960, there are many children born in a peaceful time, as people just regularly married and have children in a young age. Then because the government of the country tried to manage the population of the nation, it only allowed one child per family. But still there are parents who secretly born their second child, although their child has a high probability to be killed. Infant mortality rate. The graph is found in the newborn and infant subfolder from the healthy section. The big decreasing trend occurred from 1970 to 2015 in infant mortality. It benefited from the high-speed development of the country. Before that, the life quality and the environment in China was already getting better, so it had started decreasing slowly. Well, the reason for the small increase at the beginning of the graph is probably because of the disaster at the time and the low-quality medical care that directly affect infants and lead to death. This graph for life expectancy is founded under the health category and has a trend of stability and increasing, also decreasing. So from that graph, you can see that the life expectancy is very low, about 31 to 32 in the beginning. The trend of even decreased to 20 years expectancy for the lowest point, which is because that there were lots of revolutionary movements that resulted in the sacrifice of young and many people died in a young age. In the next few years, as the wars disappeared and the country is in progress of development, so life expectancy increases. Population primary comparison. In 1960, the entire population of China is just 660 million, even doesn't meet half of the population in 2020. It expected that the population in the future in 2060 would decrease by 100 million compared to 2020. So why would the population decrease in the future? Let's look at some details. So first, the DTM states that 96 is in stage 2. It increases when in 2020 moving to stage 4. Then 2060 is expected in stage 5. Cpr rates. 1960 is the highest CPR rate, 2060 is the lowest, because less children are born, because women have more choice in future and in now. CDR. This rate is the highest in 1960, as less development and suffering from the war. 2060, the death rate increased compared to 2020 because of the group of elderly. Life expectancy. People are living more years in the future as expectation, as medical care, medicine supplies are improved. Dependency ratio. In 1960, the dependency ratio is calculated about 67%. In 2020, the ratio is about 43%, and in 2060, the ratio is about 72%. Distribution of male and female. In 1960, it clearly showed that man is more than woman, but the difference isn't so big. In 2020, the difference is less clear as it decreases, but referring to the report, male is more than female. In 2060, it's the same expectation as 2020. The reason that the population decreased in 2060 is that the elderly are in the society, which creates a large amount of deaths, and the birth counts go beyond as it's less than the deaths. Population distribution. Well, people from the west part of China, especially the ones who live in the rural place, are migrated to urban city in the east. The reason that they did so is that people eager for high salaries to support their family life or improve their life quality. Also because urban place has better service like hospital, schools, and more opportunity for jobs. Terrain is another important factor which influences the concentration and growth of population, leads to the strange population distribution, as normally plain areas have a higher density of population. Well, west of the China is mostly mountains and highland. Natural environment and climate also affect the distribution of population. Places with extreme climate made less people live there, like in west of the China. Overall, China's population is very uneven, so the east is very clustered and dense, while in the west is very dispersed and less dense. Population is very likely to act the population that faced by China now, so aging population decreasing of current birth rate. Referring to the population pyramid, it's clear that the elder population is keeping increasing throughout the years, and at the same time they are reducing in the birth rate. China's population aging, fewer children are born. Less women are thinking about born many children now, as they will lose their job for being pregnant too. What is predicted? By 2050, more than a quarter of the population will be over 65 years old, and younger generation face an unprecedented burden of care, which seem to be unprepared. Also, 1/4 is a high percentage than in the US and twice of India. This threatens an economic boom that's been built on vast labor supply. What it leads to is long-term economic problem, as 1/4 of the population is in retirement, and short-term consequence is lack of young workers in the near future. Middle-aged people would occupy the workspace. Second is the traditional preference among Chinese parents for sons, and gender ratio reached 120 to 100 in some provinces. This left a generation of single men because they didn't have the chance to marry. Today, although the sex ratio for births has been dropping as there are less inequality between gender, the ratio was still above the natural rates of 105 to 100. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, the government advocated the later, longer, fewer lifestyle, encouraging people to marry later, which provided wide gaps between children and fewer children indeed. Also, the one-child policy is attempted to control population growth and help modernize the economy. 421 problem. It basically represents the family structure that commonly appeared in China today, which is a concerned issue. Only but older children from single-child parents fits the 4-to-1 phenomenon. Well, when a child reaches working age, he or she is required to take care of their parents and 4 grandparents who are in retirement. Last issue. The Chinese government believes that the one-child policy curtailed population growth, and that it prevented 400 million extra births. Well, actually, China's population still went overpopulated. The mayor of China's population is living in the east coastline cities, while people from the west part of China, especially the ones who lived in rural places, still migrated to urban cities in the east. The reasons that they did so include better economy, employment, salaries, education, medical care, and climate. And these factors lead to strange distribution. So what's my population plan's solution? So first, to ensure that there are enough workers and the elderly population is overpopulated and there aren't enough young workers to be used. The new policy can make the retirement age to be longer, or it's better to allow elderly to come back to the workplace if they want and their health situation is allowed. Well, extended the retirement age is actually what China wants to do in these few years. Second, two-child policy is published in 2016 to increase the birth rate, and one-child policy is cancelled at the same time. To balance the gender ratio, it's possible to come up with new welfare policy that is for women, as women are afraid that having birth of child will let them lose their job. And there's discrimination for pregnant workers in the workspace. People believe they are not as productive as other ones. But the new welfare policy can give money and make a promise to women who become pregnant to ensure they get money while they are having a child and doesn't lose their employment. Also, the policy would encourage females to have a second one. Third, for population distribution, the new policy I suggest is supporting many development in the west part of China. And what China just had in last year is e-commerce and live broadcast used for poverty alleviation program to drive the economy of the west part of China, while by a range of programs to develop the provinces in the west. People living there wouldn't like to immigrate, and people may even willing to move to there. Here's all the work citations. And here's all for China population case study analysis. For further more information, please visit the link. Thank you.